Ladies and gentlemen, I would like us to take a start, so if everybody can sit down, please. We are going to have this interesting session on post-harvest loss scenarios and the status of post-harvest losses. And I won't waste too much time. I'll just introduce myself. My name is Robert van Otterdijk. I am at the FAO working on the global initiative on food loss and waste reduction, otherwise called Safe Food. And I want to start with the keynote presentation from Dr. Prasanta Kalita from the University of Illinois.
Robert, thank you very much. I'll talk about some of the things that this morning our panelists talked about, how multi-stakeholder approaches can prove successful, be successful, and then it energizes people to do some work. As you know, let me see how this thing works. I'm not going to spend much time on it. As you know, we already talked about 7 billion people today, and by 2050, we will have more than 9.3 billion people on this world. So the population is increasing in the developing countries, and that's where we have a lot of food demand is going high. As you can see on this chart right here, the cereal and meat demand and a lot of from developing countries demands a lot higher. Look at by 2050, our demands will be how do we meet those demands out there. So imagine all the food mankind has produced, and this is a quote, over the past 8,000 years. Now consider that we need to produce that same amount again just in less than 40 years. That's a big challenge for us. So how do we increase that food to feed 9.5 billion people by 2050? We need more land area to be under agricultural production, more agricultural efficient methods, high-yielding varieties, and things like that. But do we have any choice? Look at here this figure shows you the use of water. Every available water that we have on the planet, 70% goes in agriculture today, and the rest, 30%, goes in domestic and industrial uses. Now, everything is increasing. As you can see that, the population increasing, a lot of industrial demands are increasing. So where do you balance that? So that's not an option out there for us. What is a feasible and resource-efficient alternative? We produce a lot of food, as you heard this morning. I'm not going to give you too much detail on that. We all know, I'm sure people that came here, they have come here, they know about a rule of thumb, 1/3 of the food that we produce, we lose it. And President Easter told you how much fertilizer we lose on that thing, how much land, labor, all the agricultural input that we lose on it. So why don't we save the food that we produce and from the, the post-harvest loss and waste? So here is a number that I put together, some of the numbers that I put. We said about if 1/3 of the food is lost, it's about 1.3 billion tons per year. Now, an average person needs about 30 tons of food for lifetime. So, with the loss of 1 billion tons per year, we can feed 3.7 million people for lifetime. So think about it. So I think that can be done. I have put here some definitions. These definitions come from World Resource Institute, and I'm not going to spend too much time on it. My talk will be mostly on losses. We will talk about the loss, weight loss, quality loss, and nutritional losses and seed viability losses and all out there. So here is a number. Where is the food loss? If you look at the numbers here, in a developed country, you have food losses here in the production, but a lot more in developing country. In handling and storage losses, developed countries about 9%, developing countries about 15%. and these losses for processing kind of very similar, 2%, 2%. Look at here in the waste, in developed countries, the waste, food waste is a lot higher than in developing countries. So those of you that are working in this area and others that are curious to know, basically we talk about the various on the value chain, what different type of components exist there. We start with although harvesting, we call it after post-harvest losses, but harvesting is a big component of that whole process. Threshing, drying, storage, milling, transportation, and marketing. I put some pictures here, and look at the developing countries, how they look at things, and in the developed country, how things look like. So just a comparison of the physical component of the value chain out there. So what happens when we have post-harvest losses and waste? Of course, we know we are losing our food. So we have reduced food availability and food quality, both are lost, or we decrease the quality of. So we contribute the food insecurity problem. And as I said also before, the number is 1 in 9 of us, they go to bed every day hungry. So we have, if we lose that much amount of food, we have less income. So the livelihood, that quality goes down. $4 billion annual grain loss itself in sub-Saharan Africa. In terms of the environmental implications, the waste of resources and produce emissions that we need to produce this food and take care of the waste, 3.3 gigatons carbon dioxide emissions due to food loss, food waste. So what it comes down to, I think it's common sense, and President Easter said this morning in his talk, reducing post-harvest losses is a lot more feasible than producing that much amount of food to feed the world. Here is something that I'll go over a little bit more. What are the factors and causes of losses? First of all, lack of mechanization. Many parts of the world, they still don't have proper mechanization. They have, but it's underutilized. Then untimely harvesting, then that contributes to a lot of drying or storage losses out there. The bad weather conditions, people don't know how, or they don't have the tools to forecast weather to coincide their agricultural operations out there. Small farms, lack of capitals, lack of information, lack of training facilities, and maybe almost non-existent government policies. We do not have adequate storage facilities, poor handling facilities, poor road conditions, and inadequate market structure and policies. So all these things are factors. As a result of that, what happens when we lose a lot of crop from the harvesting because of the lack of mechanizations or untimely harvesting? High shattering losses due to delayed harvesting, insect, rodents, and bird attack on standing crops, broken grains, and so on and so forth. You all know all this kind of various different processes. I'm not going to go over each and every one of these causes, and you all know that. Post-harvest loss is a very complex process. This has been repeated this morning several times. All our panelists said that. President Easter said that in his speech. It's a very complicated problem. And how does, my slide itself, I made it look like it's very complex processes out there. Losses vary on weight and calorie basis. Just look at the cereal itself. If you just look at the calorie, the losses are different than if you just look at by the weight losses out here for all various different type of crops. The losses vary among crops. If you look at the grain losses in whole food supply chain in Bangladesh, what you can see right here, most losses are happening in storage and drying, but for rice, the losses are different. For wheat, losses are different. And for maize, the losses are much higher, more than 50% of the losses. If you look at the losses out here just for rice, maize, soybean, and beans, food in Brazil, you can see very similar thing. the losses vary from crop to crop for various different crops. So, it adds to the complications. That means one shoe size doesn't fit all. We also look at the rice losses, post-harvest losses of rice in several countries out here, India, Bangladesh, China, Indonesia, Nepal, Nigeria, Sri Lanka, and Thailand. You see it's scattered all over the graph. And losses vary. Even within the country, these post-harvest losses vary. We have done, an ADM Institute has done some work in 2 states of Maharashtra in the estimated post-harvest losses for black gram. And you look at, in a little bit more developed state, some of the losses are less, for example, storage drying. But in a less developed state, the losses are, and the same component, the losses are totally different. So here, for example, your storage losses are a lot higher in Madhya Pradesh, that's central part of India. Here, for the entire several states in India, just rice losses, look at that. Very different for each of the components. We talk about harvesting losses, threshing losses, cleaning losses, storage losses, and transportation and handling. So these components vary even within each country. So that adds to that. It's all a very complex problem, again, that we encounter. So that is why, people say, why we haven't adopted the technology? Why we haven't solved the problem? So solutions require synergistic efforts through the variety different approaches. Few of the things that we know, technology is one of the driving forces. However, awareness and education is another very key component in the whole issue out there. Policies and also the linking farmers, I think that is hiding out there in my slide, the market linkage of products from farmers field to nearby markets and for better pricing and all those things are missing. So all those, if we can improve things like in each of those 4 areas, I think we could have some significantly reduced post-harvest losses. We did a work, this is also another ADM Institute supported work in China. We looked at, with 900 wheat farmers in Hunan province in China. These results are just fresh. We looked at, if you use machineries by same, regular combine harvesting versus reduced combine harvesting speed versus best harvesting time with efficient combine or different wheat varieties or high performance combine. 2 significant findings that here we find the minimum losses of harvesting occur when you use the best harvesting time and high performance combine engine out there. So the losses in maize grain after 90 days of storage in various storage structures can be different. Here is another one in 2 countries in Uganda and Burkina Faso. Look at that in the traditional, basically the granaries, the way they do it. Look at the losses are so high, more than 50% losses. But compared to if it's metallic silos or plastic silos or grain pro bags or zero fly bag and a Vestergaard and all this, you can significantly reduce post-harvest losses. So the way this morning our panelists talked about, we have the blocks, we have the various different pieces. How do we pull all these pieces together? That's why we need to put multi-stakeholder approaches. ADM Institute, that's our motto. We just don't want to jump in a problem. We try to partner with various different stakeholders, with farmers, with NGOs, with government agencies, with funding agencies, and others that would like to work with us. And that's the approach we have been doing through ADM Institute. So, as you heard, that ADM Institute was established in 2011 by a generous gift from the ADM company. We are 4 more plus years. Because of through this multi-stakeholder approach, we have been able to reach several very good accomplished projects that we have completed. Many are underway. We have 30 plus projects, 30 plus researchers from all over the world. 60 plus collaborators, many of our students are actively involved through study abroad programs, research programs, and other scholarship program through our ADM Institute. As you have seen some sample, some of our undergraduate students are here. We have about 8, and yesterday some of them are already here in Rome. They came here. So that's kind of the way we work. We want to bring all of them. This is a good example of our partners around the globe. We work, like I said, you work with multi-stakeholder approach. You have to work with various different partners, USAID. I will give you a few examples how we work with them. And universities, FAO, Save the Food, with Rockefeller, Gates, Mexico in India, Government of India, and APEC, Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation, all those various agencies, we make an effort to connect with people. So, we have to make an effort to connect, and I'll show you sometime later in my presentation how do we do that. These are some of just a picture to show where our active projects are here in Bangladesh, India, some parts of Africa, and in several parts in the US itself we are working on. Our international projects are also all over. I think this is maybe a little bit duplicated slides, other one. This is another one we are working on. We call it Axis of Post-Harvest Loss Challenges and Opportunities. We have been bringing partners, the governments and others, to work in the most poorest state of India, Bihar. As you know, in this Indo-Gangetic plain, the farmer's daily income is less than $1.25. So a lot of international organizations are looking at it, how they can help people. So these smallholder farmers, we have established 6 different sites, villages. We have adopted villages. We are looking at 4 different crops, staple crops, rice, wheat, maize, and lentils, and partner with universities, farmer groups, government, and international organizations. We are expanding it. We have partnered with USAID and Bangladesh Agricultural University to work in Bangladesh. And these places are not too far from India to Bangladesh, less than 500 miles. So we would like to expand it into regional scale. We would like to extend it into Nepal. This whole area, we call it Axis, South Asian Axis of Post-Harvest Loss Challenges and Opportunities. I think if we can bring people together, we can bring all the people that who care about, we can make a huge impact, and we can show it to the other part of the world how success stories can be built from the beginning. We just had, about a couple of months ago, our ADM Institute, we launched this project in Bihar. ADMI from our institute is leading it. 3 universities, as I mentioned, 2 actually, Rajendra Agricultural University, Bihar Agricultural Universities, and we are as well as partnering with Borlaug Institute for South Asia, an international institute just created in India. We are bringing the government of India 2 organizations, one from Ministry of Agriculture called Indian Council of Agricultural Research, other one is from Ministry of Information and Communication Technology, and that's a new program called Information Technology Research Academy. We are bringing all these people out together to solve these post-harvest loss problems, looking at technologies, looking at some policy issues, doing some survey of about 3,200 household farmers, and how information technology can be incorporated into this, our whole post-harvest loss reduction initiative. So we also call this an ADMI village, and the reason that we call it an ADMI, if it's pronounced, and in India the major language is Hindi, it's called ADMI. ADMI means human. So we would like to put that slogan out there. We would like to build that. This is still in a building phase. We haven't totally established that yet. We just went, as President Easter and I went to India, the Minister of Agriculture came, and we launched that program. So things that we would like to do, we reduce post-harvest losses. We want to motivate the farmers. We want to bring other, the women self-help groups, market information, drying and storage technology, all various different components that you can bring into solving this post-harvest loss problem. Our aim is that the ADMI village will act as a model to demonstrate the positive impact of post-harvest loss reduction interventions on the food availability, farmers' income, and life and livelihood of the smallholder farmers. So this is kind of another shot of this, what this village would look like. And we are getting a lot of support, a lot of questions, a lot of curiosity, and of course, a lot of questions from people. How are you going to do that? This is kind of our timeline. We're starting in 2015, and as we move, these are still flexible. We are looking at what can you do in a year, what can you do in 2 years, what can you do in 3 years, or if we cannot prove to the community that ADMI village, or a physical village of 500 farm families in 5 years, then I think we will not be successful. So we have to show sign of progress. We have to build a successful story within 5 years. That's our aim. And this is what we would like to see: happy family, happy children, women are happy, and farmers' income went higher. This is our partnership with USAID project. As I mentioned, ADM Institute has contributed significantly with other funding from USAID. We are leading the effort in Bangladesh, and very fortunately, our colleagues, the leaders from Bangladesh, they're here. Please attend their presentations. They will be giving 4 presentations from the work that we just started a year ago, looking at mycotoxin reduction in paddy, using all these various different drying and storage technology, and what could be the appropriate technologies they can bring the cost down. The farmers would be able to afford those technologies. We have similar works going on in last 2-3 years in Brazil, and some of our colleagues from Brazil, they are here. So I encourage you to go and attend their presentations. Out there, we are looking at some sensors. We are looking at the logistics of transportations out there. We are learning from them how they're dealing with it. There's some of the people out there, they're masters. They have led these efforts, and I think there is a lot more for all of us to learn from them. In terms of education and training, as some of you yesterday when I was walking through the podium, people just look at me, and of course they recognize by my bald head, I think. They said, "Oh, Dr. Kalita, I listened to your class, Post-Harvest Loss Reduction 101, and we have so far about 6,365 people, so from 166 countries. This is an initial effort that we made it, and we talked to our other partners. There are a few others. Lisa might be sitting, Lisa Kitinoya. She is a wonderful colleague, gives us all the help in various different. All right, Lisa, you're there. Wonderful. Working out there, so helping us. Education is key, right, Lisa? Awareness is the key. So collectively, I think we can do that. So, as you know, our ADM Institute, we would also like to be a one-stop shop for information. So we have website, we regularly update, we release news, we do the blogging and other things, social media, I have no capacity in those things. As you can see, our students, undergraduate students, are continuously doing that from this morning, and the blogging and tweeting and things like that. So go to our website, www.phl@illinois.edu. You will get the latest and the greatest information. And here is, as President Easter mentioned this morning, that's what we would like to do it. And I explained it, the roadmap that we will be working on, why we do that. This first International Congress that we would like to bring everybody together out there. If we do not have a consensus on how much reduction of post-harvest we should be reducing by in next 5 years or 10 years or 20 years or 15 years, if we cannot make that decision, I think we will be very late in adopting some of these implementation strategies out there. So what are the key points that I would like to give to you all out here? Post-harvest losses happen significantly. As you have heard this morning, I showed you some data, and it is a complicated problem, rather very complex problem. Post-harvest losses can be reduced. As we have shown some data, it has been said in the morning, the blocks, the pieces are there. And we need the multi-stakeholder approach. Technologies exist, but underutilized or not utilized. We need to be, and many of these technologies need to be made affordable and appropriately scaled. Advanced technologies need to be invented that can help scaling up. Awareness, as I said, is the key. There must be action-oriented. And my final message is, we need to go for this C4. One is care. We have to care about our people. Think about the farmers. Think about their families. Think about the smallholder farmers whose income is way less. They can't afford to do anything else. So, care about them, connect, collaborate, and contribute. With that, I conclude my keynote speech. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prasanta, for this interesting presentation where you give a clear overview